Hello and welcome to another Toonkind at 12 FPS. My name is Winona and I am with the lovely, the amazing, the talented and smart and good friend.
I should not have let you do the intro. Walked into that one like a lead pipe. Hey everyone, it's me, Vwild, as always on the bullshit.
Yes. And who will you be playing today?
Yes, of course. How could I forget? I am playing Detective Lin Stagehand at your service.
Hehe.
And you know what? As a treat, Mira's also going to be here because she likes this. She likes this situation.
Yeah, especially after last time as you traumatized this man.
Honestly, was it not important for growth? Sometimes you must break someone first.
Yeah. And today I'll be playing the bastard James Heineken, aka Nathan Summers. I am they say if you get the joke, you get the joke. Let's get into it. They say,
Mm-hmm.
Vwild, would you like to take over? Hee hee.
Indeed. So, James has been having, well, I'd say a time. He got heavily traumatized. That was a time. But instead of, dying or any of those things or waking up in an ice bath, instead, James, a little while back, woke up in a jail cell. A jail cell in a wonderful town that we all call home of Halloween Town. Whether he knows it's Halloween Town or not, actually, people may tell him it's he might find that out on his own being in there.
Which
At
is
the same
fair.
time, yeah, that's where he be.
Yeah. Also, before we fully get into it, this is after the university game for those who wish to know where this is in the timeline where the university was attacked by the creativity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But anyways, please
It,
continue.
it was a wonderful time for all. It wasn't, but at least we got some interesting information out of the entire situation that it was. Dear Lord, that was the situation.
Yeah.
But it's been a bit of time since then. Just let it all percolate, let it all simmer down, get some information from a very pissed off Sally, figure out some further information, let it all stew, and then just go, hmm. You know what? I think we need to pay someone a visit. Because you can't just leave someone like James in a jail cell forever. I mean, you could, but we won't. And we don't, especially with stuff he has.
Yeah. And James is
So,
definitely was pissed when he first woke up. The first thing
mm-hmm.
the first thing he said was a long fuck.
Oh, Christ alive, I love him.
And ever since then, he's actually been kind of well behaved, definitely snarky, and also asked for cigarettes.
Which I'm 90% sure is one of those things that you're not meant to have in a jail cell.
Yeah.
It's like something you might get like down the line on good behavior. But that's also heavily debatable given James.
At least for right now, he is quote unquote behaving himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They've also managed to get him into the orange, so it's he's been behaving decently well.
Mm hmm. But
I
yes.
think. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to give the complete disclaimer to our audience that I don't know shit nor dick about jails. Okay, I know they're vastly different in media to how they are in real life and all that blah da,
Yeah.
and I don't even know it very well in the thing.
Yeah. Same here.
So, so I think one of the things that does just happen at a stage is there's probably a set routine for people in jails and such
Mm
of
hmm.
when they do certain things, like when they wake up, when they eat, all that sort of stuff. On one of these days, a decent bit into his time here, there is going to be a transition from instead of going to where he usually goes, he's going to be taken to one of the. I don't think he'd know what it is, but for our audience, it's the visitor's room. I mean, depends on how much he knows about jails.
Oh yeah, he would know that he'd be taken to a visitor's room.
Mm-hmm. Marvelous. Then it's all the usual circumstances, the making sure you can't make a break for it. Although, if you did get out of here, I laugh in kind of the circumstances they're in of just the no heart emoji. I know this town. But he's probably in there a little while. Would you like to roll? How's he feeling? How's he doing? How's James's inner monologue doing right now?
James is just taking in the surrounding. I assume this is similar to like in maybe an interrogation room with the table. He's sitting at one end of the table, handcuffed and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the picture I'm going. He's probably leaned back a little bit on his chair, say looking around. He knows what this room is. He knows what's gonna happen. He's actually been waiting for this to happen because he's like, look, you're not part of a say if you capture someone from an organization, of course you're gonna try to interrogate them. That's just the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way how it be. So he's just
Mm-hmm.
very nonchalant right now, just waiting for the person who's gonna be interrogating him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And hey, at least he gets a nice scenery. I mean, this place has torchlight instead of the fluorescent bulb overhead and those sorts of things.
There's
It's
definitely
very aesthetic.
yes, it's the atmosphere. Good atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. And it is eventually there is the door opens. And most of the people have been like your height, James. Like, on average, skeletons and ghosts and mummies and all those sorts of people are around, yourish height.
Mm-hmm.
No, no, this one isn't. And in comes Detective Lin Stagehand in all her 3'6" glory, just tips her hat to someone out of view, and then just comes in and then just goes, James, good to see you again.
I was wondering when you'd be here. And he like leans back a bit more, puts his feet up on the table.
What can I say? I had other priorities. But glad to see you're doing all right.
He shrugs. He's like, more mainly a gesture of, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. And she does come, like, to the table. Does just sit on the other side of it. Does roll me perception or insight, whichever one you think most appropriate.
What is she trying to do?
She's going to be glancing somewhere for a moment.
Insight, in that case.
Mm-hmm. Okie dokie's waiting for it. Where you be rolling, by the way? I just can't see I can't see it.
I don't I say in the roll zone in the game zone, but you can use your dice.
Ah. Okay. I was also saying it as a James check something, but let's see. Okay. So because I asked you to roll the insight.
Ah, I see. I thought you were rolling me. I thought you were.
Well,
I thought you were
Lin
gonna
is
roll.
also,
Sorry, I missed. Say.
yeah.
I misunderstood
It's all
that.
right. But
No.
you know what? Lin is also going to be checking him out as well because it's just like him.
All right, fair enough. All right, that feels appropriate. It's a 12.
Yeah, no, he ain't going to get shit nor dick on this. He, she wears her hat incredibly low at points, and she has got a distinct difference in everything to him. So she is hard to read, like straight up. She is hard to read. Now, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
which
do a
makes
roll
sense
for
when she's not
him.
even really. Let's say she's hard to read, and he's not very sure if he even cares about her right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that was a 25 insight on how's he doing.
Basically, you get that. You get like, yeah, say he doesn't really care about this situation right now. You can definitely tell by his relaxed posture that he is not giving really anything up without a fight. Is say, but
Mm-hmm.
he's definitely showing it in a way of very much confidence, but not in a smirky
Mm-hmm.
way. More like you're gonna have to make me talk to really get anything out of this situation. Otherwise, we're gonna be in a room for this whole afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Which honestly is actually something Lin would not be bothered by. It's just like she can do a lot of stuff in her head. However, as that's she's just clocked that. She's thought on that. And she has made a glance. You know how interrogation rooms and that sort of thing have like a panel or something
Oh
where
yeah.
people can see in? Yeah.
Mhm.
For our audience, she has looked out to there. Where, well, I did say Mirror was going to be here, didn't I?
Mhm.
I think you can. I think you can guess what Mirror's probably going to be doing throughout this entire FPS until called upon for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
So just if James has any interesting mental reactions at any point,
Honestly,
feel
he
free to just.
wouldn't just because he's not surprised. He knows that this is little Lin Stagehand. She's not gonna come in here without a game plan or a fight.
Mm-hmm.
He knows fully there are people behind the glass. He doesn't know how many there are, but he knows that
Mm-hmm.
she does not come here unprepared.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll think about it later on if Mirror wants to go deeper. We'll see.
Mhm.
But but for now they're going to be a bit respectful, just in the you don't go diving into someone's mind to rip out their secrets at the very start.
Mhm.
You could, but it's counterproductive. And she does just set a few things down on the table. Not everything that she's got at the moment, but there is just like the tape recorder. She just goes, all right, we'll see how this goes. And then she clicks it on and does the rattles off the date, who she is, certain things. And then she is just going to pause for a moment and just go, now, James Heineken, Nathan Summers, you've even gone by, what was it, Christopher Valentine at one point? Which name would you like to go by for this?
He laughs at the last one. That one's more of a joke, but I appreciate the
I,
research.
pays to know your people.
But before we go on, I do demand something.
You're not particularly in the place to make demands, but
A man can't
throw
ask
it
for
out
a
there.
smoke.
Maybe if you're good here. All right, I'll see what I can do.
He's quiet at that.
All right. So, things have been quite eventful recently, given everything that we went through together. Lovely time, by the way. Don't think we'll be able to go for a repeat performance, but was rather fascinating.
He's quiet.
And then, of course, there were events afterwards, which, admittedly, you're not privy to, but they were an interesting experience, I have to admit. Met one of your, well, already knew of them, Quill, right?
He does cock an eyebrow, but smiles.
Yeah, gotta admit, interesting one. I mean, for a being that's basically bitch ass plagiarism, but hey, each their own.
He shrugs, but does give a little smirk with say when you say bitch ass plagiarism.
There was a whole event and everything that transpired therein. Maybe I'll fill in details on that. Maybe you already know in part. Including seeing as part of it all was related to the death of your wolves.
He shrugs. Adventurers be as adventurers be. That was by luck.
No? How so?
A man can have many jobs. And sometimes they say those jobs get your machines into trouble.
Indeed, indeed. Although, how to word? Guess a situation where all of them go offline, procking something, that's rather interesting.
I assume that you probably already looked over my wolves, and they definitely have their fail safes.
Aye, rather incredible technology, I must admit. Well, you did say you were better than the black market, so
I like to pride myself in my work.
indeed. And by your own words, many different hats, many different work.
He gets shrugs, saying that that's to be given.
So many different jobs during your times, eh?
He's quiet.
I mean, part of it is your incredible work with mechanisms, with technology, with understanding on that side of things. Such a brilliant mind, yet wearing coats forced on by other people. Hmm.
He still remains silent and just looks at ya.
I mean, well, I guess one thing would be, I'll get to that part later on, but I've got interesting parts to you. Not just the mechanical work aspect, but, well, to put it one way, your design. Very fascinating incorporation of toon and reel in you, eh?
He does give a soft chuckle at that.
Now, come on. Don't want to fill the silence. Been so full of words before now.
Have to choose your words carefully in an interrogation.
True, true. Something I caution many people on usually.
Yeah,
But
depends on the person. As you know, some people will rant and yell to their heart's content, and others are easily procked.
indeed, you're a little less hard to poke. A wolf who knows how to keep their fangs shut.
Yeah, I'm just I'm just full of surprises.
Mm-hmm. That you are in most ways. Digging on you is always, well, for every person is always intriguing.
You should say say touche, I should say. Now you are now you are a special case. He does get his feet off the say off the table and say put and rests his head on his hands. Now sort of examining her. Oh, to be young and full of energy, and yet you have accomplished so much. Though I have to say that's probably the tune in ya. Is say tunes are get things done rather quickly and efficiently, and learn as fast. And a trait that I do admire.
I'll take that as a compliment. And she actually mirrors him slightly, and she rests her elbows on the table and then just rests her chin on her hands. Although you do have a fascination with tunes in and of themselves, eh? I
As
mean,
as much as a detective is fascinated by every case that she gets.
there's always the things you want to go into further detail on. I mean, the work that you and your partners did, for example.
He does narrow his eyes at her. Now that will be remained buried.
Like them?
Like them.
I'm afraid, though, won't fully. You see, everything that transpired back then, well, maybe it's the tune in me, but I do find things tend to cycle. The past haunts the present. And people from the past, well, how they haunt a narrative.
Indeed. Which is why I thought I had the upper hand for say I would have the upper hand if I were to meet you. Your
Oh,
past is not is easily opened.
Detective Stagehand is looking at you with the unblinking stare. Not one of shock, not one of surprise, just one that people usually don't want to be on the opposite end of.
He does spark at that and continue on. Is it is honestly I'm very in a way kind of proud of you in a way. I thought you'd be easy. But apparently that trauma does not affect you anymore. Is a unfortunately to my benefactors is a dismay, which not surprised with that. A weakness like that would definitely be want to be overcome relatively quickly.
Hmm.
Almost like a
And how do
happy
you? Oh, sorry, you go.
I say almost like a happy accident that my way of being would fit is a particular weakness of yours, but apparently not much of a weakness much longer. But oh well.
Well, we all have our ways of overcoming the past. Some better than others.
He's quiet at that. Gives a little.
But I guess to get back on track, your partners were quite fascinating. I mean, the entirety of why you're on this path is quite fascinating. I would like to know more about that. I can get it one way or another, but quite frankly, your account could be quite useful.
I'm assuming that you prob. I'm assuming that their research is still somewhere around Inkwell.
I very good read, honestly.
They did say they were very good at what they did.
Indeed. For what it's worth, I am sorry about your loss.
He's quiet for a moment and sighs, but does not say anything more. But you can make another insight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see if you'll beat this.
That's pretty good. I'm so used to a peanut gallery being below a rolling. $24.
Yeah, that even on a night, say, unfortunately, a dirty 20 won't help him on this. But it is definitely a silence. There's definitely was a silence in that, and for a second you thought maybe you wouldn't be able to read him. But his facade sort of breaks, just almost crack. Say, just has the slightest crack in his eyes. It's just like, because it's always the eyes, and it's more like him saying, well, it was my own damn fault.
I'm going to be honest with you. We can do this all night, several days, several weeks. But let's put it this way, in that you are related and embroiled in all of this. And there are so many aspects to it all, including how you have been tethered into it all. And it starts with the past. Now, I would like to hear your story. I would like to know your side of things, not out of any sense of pity, but because I think it is worth knowing. I think you are worth knowing. And if you give me this, I think I can give something to you that is going to be irreplaceable.
He gives a laugh at that. I highly doubt it. The moment that accident happened, I was damned. I'd say, I don't need to say, I appreciate your thing, but I'm going to hell no matter what. I ain't seeing my family no matter what, even in death. The least I can do is say, at least bait the devils out.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're telling me something absolutely world breaking, I don't think you have anything on me.
Try me. And you can roll insight if you like.
All right. That is going to be an 18.
Yeah. James, this is someone who is very difficult to read. However, she has tilted her hat back so that you can see her eyes, because it is always in the eyes. And even now, even with all of that ideas of this having to be something so major, that there is conviction in her eyes. There is something that she has that she truly believes is going to be vitally important to you.
He glares at her. Because here's the thing. Say, say Nathan James, he has done his homework. He is the scout of basically the organization. He researches threats and possible, let's say, weaknesses. And she has definitely been on the top of his list.
Mm-hmm.
And the one
Mm-hmm.
thing that he knows about Lin Stagehand is she will always go for say she is a symbol of hope, even to the most downtrodden toon or man, and will see the best in everyone, or at least try to.
Mm-hmm.
So he
She
knows,
admittedly. Oh, sorry, you go. You go.
and he knows she wouldn't lie to him. However, he is still. However his body is very much turned back and is definitely arm crossed, a very defensive position, especially. And you see in particular that his right, I don't think I pointed out last time, but it's his right arm. His right, what would be hand, but there is no hand anymore. Just the fuzzy stump of a wrist as he crosses his arms.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, all right, prove it. I'm willing to take a bet.
Thing is, I'd like something first. Tell you what, how much do you know about pinky promises here in Anquil?
He laughs. It's a genuine laugh. I say, if I didn't know about pinky promises, I'd be shit of a researcher.
Good. And this makes this part easier. And she actually holds out a pinky and she goes, "You tell me about the accident. I tell you about the bit of knowledge I have. From there, we see how it goes."
He looks at this with surprise as he knows how big this thing is. He's just like he's taken aback a bit. He's just like the detective stagehand is willing to actually go through with a pinky promise. That's something major. As
And
he stands up and goes over to her and intertwines his pink his other hand, his other pinky with hers. All right. Bet's on.
thank you. Now, tell me about the accident.
he goes back to his seat sort of lazily as he relieves a heavy sigh as he plumps down in his sig. Well, to know of the accident is to know my background a little bit. Because there's definitely some context that needs to be done. If that's okay with you.
By all means.
James Heineken was my bastard name. Let's just start it off there. I assume that you know what a bastard is.
Alright.
And you know that in some countries and places that bastards, say if they're cast out by their family, they still need to have a last name, so they choose the common, say they just choose one name, whether it be Snow, Stone, Boulder, whatever. In say in genre, and in my particular part where I was quote unquote born, it was Heineken. And as a bastard, you don't get much credit. I was say didn't know who my father was, and my mother say was from one of the whorehouses. Basically, I had to scramble by to get by. It wasn't until I met up with well, a lichen group. It was they were a small part of my future partner's family business. Yes. The bell sings. Wait, not bell sings. Am I getting my own characters wrong? My brain is still bell sing. What am I thinking? I don't know what I'm thinking. The bell sing organization specializes in blood hunters. And well, he is one way to scramble up in society a lot of times is to show that you have some fight in ya. Tell me, how much do you know about blood hunter lichens in particular?
A decent amount.
So you're aware of the taming ceremony, or the taming, as just they regularly call it.
In my head, I'm just here having the moment of Lin just going, I'm pretty sure that's a them culture thing.
Yeah. Long story short, that I was purposely inflicted with lycanthropy, and then similar to taming a wild animal, I you tame the beast to take full control of it. Part of that sort of partial of blood hunters, the taming of the beast. It was honestly one of my only options, unless I wanted to go into crime, which, even though I was good at it, unfortunately, again, bastard on the street, didn't have much money, had to happen. I was given I by happenstance was given an opportunity to become better. And of course, I took it. Inducting myself into the Bell Sing organization at, I think I was 13. Yeah, I think it was about 13. Usually, they usually wait until around 18, but let's just say I was more determined than the other folks. But I rose up, I became very powerful and got access to knowledge that I wouldn't have before. Hence why I started tinkering and stuff. Hence, hence how I got into, say, well, robotics. And eventually climbed my way up to be the leader of that small section of the Belsing organization, the Lycan part of it. And that's also how I met my partners. He at the time was the heir. Say he when I first met him was the heir, not say not taking over the family just yet. And she was she was another part of of the organization, but she was of aristocratic descent. They were basically
Mm-hmm.
say all goes well for them. They were going to be engaged to be wed. Arranged marriages were also very common in genre.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I worked my way up and as from child, say from teenager to adult, I became close with, well, them. Say we went on, we went out on secret dates. We say we had say just the normal teen stuff. You know what I mean. I first got to know my future wife first, and then later my husband. Mainly because she was more into the organization than he was, ironically. Of course, because he was slated to be the heir to the organization, so a lot of his time were with the the in-house tutors and everything. But for luckily and unluckily for me at the same time, they say we all, well, long story short, we all found out that we all loved each other and decided to make it a thing. What can I say?
Indeed.
But of course, say, of course, the elders of the family, his father, and of course other more aristocratic members of the higher stations of the organization, well, they never liked me in the first place. It was okay enough to have a bastard be show his worth in the organization. It's another thing to put him in power. You know how it is.
Aye. Everyone loves an underdog until they get a bit too big.
And by the time that we were very much romantically involved with each other, say too little, too late. But of course, that didn't make me try to go away. They definitely threatened my position stuff, and they also say they also threatened say getting my partners together to marry early, and they tried a lot of bureaucratic bullshit. I was wise enough to
Mm-hmm.
know they had no power over this. They also did me that also meant, though, we had to hide our relationship for the most part. Only the top brass really knew what was going on. And to aristocratic society, I was just I was just an advisor. To the young heir and his bride to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's also where I met, well, the bastard, the leader of this ring. But I won't go into that details just yet. You wanted the story first, right?
Aye, we can circle back to him later.
Yes, Kraft was an ingenious bastard, but that's besides the point. And
Mm-hmm.
he did only played a little part of our story as being one of the clergy. Say he can sneak us into places where have we can have fun, as they say.
Out of character, I would love to keep saying that he keeps talking about these things like teenagers having fun, dates, and those sort of things. You know, normal things teenagers do. And Lynn is just in my head, just she's keeping the perfect poker face. Like, genuinely, it is a really good. She is a professional. In her head, she's just like, why? Why? I get romance is a thing, but why?
Mainly to make her feel uncomfortable. He has to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah. She's not even like, uncomfortable. She's just sitting here in the. Why? Like, she is so nonplussed by it that it is in no way affecting her. It's just like this demi-romantic asexual is just sitting here just going, okay, yeah, I get it. Next bit. Next bit. Why is this even a thing? Anyway, carry on.
Yes.
She's just sitting here.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, so, despite my high standings, let's just say everyone wanted a reason to be out for me. And when time came to marriage, say, unfortunately on paper, say we are still bound to aristocratic customs. Say they were, say my husband and wife, well, they had to say they married each other, but in secret we had our own little ceremony of our own, of course, the three of us, and
Mm.
everything was fine for a time, and but say we even had a son, which later we found out he was of my blood, which I do rebel in that. Say
Mm.
biologically speaking, but that's besides the point. We got into blood. We got into tunes when my my husband, bless his soul, he loves research. When he became when he became the new leader of say of the organization, the house, the first thing he did was go to Inkwell. He was so fascinated by it. He had heard there were blood hunters there, apparently, which felt like which felt weird because it, they say ink, not blood. But this is why they wanted to research on it at that point. And this is the part where Kraft starts coming in. See, even though he was of the clergy, he was a scientist himself. Also, they say he was very interested in their work and study, and even though he couldn't get full recognition in without getting trouble with his higher ups, they say he was still very much close. I don't know exactly when it started, but behind the scenes, he started making his own organization, getting thoughts in his head. Even to this day, I don't fully understand. But they weren't good thoughts.
Mm.
He called his order the Order of the Sanguine Ink. Harrison Patrick Kraft wanted to make something. Wanted to make something better than what say he sees around him. He was say we say we knew of some of his ill intentions, but we did not know how far it got until I suggested to my say Edgar and Mary that I go undercover. I get in with say I get in with Patrick and see what he's up to. A double agent.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. Of course, under the guise of me being again a young upstart from nowhere in particular, and in particularly a bastard wanting to get a leg up on the on the organization that beats him down or keeps him in line. However, he wished to see me as an enemy of their family. I did because even though nothing was said out loud, his actions were clear. He did not particularly like the Belsing organization. Thought they'd gone too soft, that they could be doing more with their resources that they have. And to his credit, definitely Edgar's father was like that. He could have done a lot more. But with Edgar himself, with leading this expeditious charge of new information about tunes, he latched on to it. Helped him helped him get over to Inkwell frequently to lead his research. And me in the shadows, keeping an eye on him. Not very sure if he fully trusted me, and I'm not even sure he does fully to this day. But he trusted me enough to get into his fold and see what he was up to. He was trying to combine stuff, try to make something new, becoming like the god he is worshipping, the thunder. And you may already know from your research, the god is it's the god of birth, renewal. It's a self-protection and creativity. He thought he could honor his god by going with these ideals. He also understood that a lot of however, science is based off rooted in facts, and the only thing that they had at the time was, well, the ink. We were able to get bits of the well of ink from the well of inspiration to study, but it was never enough for him. And and by the time that we were starting to see up on the walls, I was already deep into the organization by now, hearing their chants and ideals. They even started to do some experiments, injecting blood, injecting some blood hunters with ink from the well of inspiration directly to see if there were any progress. What would happen. results varied. You could become part Toon, you could die. It was even 50-50.
Seems that the coin favored you on that front.
We'll get to that in a second. There's more to
Of course.
So, we saw the writing on the wall. It was only the beginning for him and his experimentation, and it needed to stop. Unfortunately, by that time, he was constantly surrounded by, say, guards and mages and others of the type.
Mm-hmm.
And well, they needed they needed him alone to at least try to convince him, at least peacefully. Despite him being a bastard back then, we did see him as a friend. And so
Mm-hmm.
I say I say I gathered everyone for an event. Say a hunting event for say his guard and everyone else. It was supposed to say it was supposed to liven things up. There was a tiny contest in there and everything. We were going to be hunting not the usual prey that we usually do to train to train the other blood hunters. This time for competition. So I had everyone's attention while Edgar and Mary went to say went to him, and well, things did not go as expected.
Mm-hmm.
Talks didn't even begin because while they were trying to lead him somewhere privately, it was nighttime. Alexander was a fine boy, an eager boy, and
Oh.
he he wanted to say he wanted to see what was happening. Oh, we didn't tell him much. We just told him that there was gonna be an event, and he needed to stay inside. It was bedtime, anyways. He was supposed to be asleep, but that didn't happen. He got out and
No.
he was killed by a displacer beast. And he's quiet there. I held him in my arms. I wrapped him in my coat. It was only by the grace of the gods that they say that he was saved. We were able to preserve his soul while we were trying to fix the body. And that's when Patrick's ideas of creation, mixture of tune and ink, did not seem like a bad idea. Because we all three of us knew there was no saving it. And he takes a sigh as he just rubs his temple. Or I should say the bridge of his nose.
Mm-hmm.
It was only for a short.
Incredibly.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
No, you go. You go.
She does. She's had her hat tilted back to be looking him in the eyes, but not always looking him in the eye. It's that way of letting someone speak. But she does just go, a terribly difficult circumstance for any parent.
He nods. They were fully inducted into the Order of the Sanguine Ink after that. Because, as you would probably reckon to guess, that the order was not, well, wouldn't be seem as right or moral to any of the other blood hunters.
Mm-hmm.
We were desperate to bring our child back. We were blinded by mourning. And we didn't. We knew it was wrong. We all did, but if you have, say, he looks at her, losing a child does something to you. It changes you.
I'm lucky that I can only imagine.
And so we expanded the project, and well, we definitely were the ones responsible to get the organization to where it is today. Almost single-handedly, our little group. And it took us way too long to realize the harm that we have done and what we needed to stop. But again, we wanted our child back. I wasn't there when it happened. I don't know exactly how it happened. But I knew that they they were going to put a stop to it. That they were going to release Alexander's soul. And, well, we would get away from the organization. They succeeded in a way, but also failed. At least failed for me. They were successful. That's when the lab explosion happened. Again, I don't know how it happened or what details that there were, but I knew it was they were trying to release his soul, and I only happened to guess that the art say Kraft and say they did something wrong, or Kraft saw something and didn't. Well, he wouldn't like that. He was, other than me, he was their second attempt. and he was beginning to be more seemed to be more successful than me, ironically, more stable. However, I was instead of backing out, I doubled down. I had not only lost my son, but I also lost my partners. And that broke me. The moment they died, the original Belsing organization cut ties, threw me out. They blamed me for their deaths, even though I don't even know how it happened. And even though, in hindsight, I can only assume that Kraft had something to do with it. But at the time, I was way too deep into this. And for some reason, I did not think that I should let him kill me too. Instead, I continued doing his bidding. And here we are.
Indeed.
And there you have it.
Right. Mm-hmm. That we do. I must admit, I did assume that the lab explosion was perhaps what happened to your hands.
No, not at all.
Hmm.
He he basically shows off his stump of a hand. This is what happens when you try to play God. In the organization, there are say the different the most powerful people are, well, the leaders, and each go with a pillar. I was the
Mm-hmm.
first. I was the erasure. I was the cancellation.
Mm-hmm.
I could have left this place if I wanted to. I could have cancelled or erased every guard in this facility. Unfortunately, that would have came with a price. The more I erased, the more it took on my soul, and hence my body.
I see. And there are others. Well, yourself and 5 others known at present, I believe.
Mm, yes.
Isn't it surprising that there isn't one for the last, the incarnation?
There was.
Oh,
It was my son, Alexander. He was supposed to be the incarnation.
as I suspected.
He never got a chance to be, though.
If he had, what would his purpose have been?
second I'm chewing on a burger. Though I would have loved to believe, say, Crafts, say, promised to just let him be, let us go. I am pretty sure that was a bold-faced lie. If I had taken a guess, he probably would have been subject to more experimentation, most and most likely try to be groomed to be a part of the admin's rank. Boost up his power, see what he can actually do.
Hmm. What a joyful, happy family scenario.
At least he doesn't have to suffer anymore. That was the hardest thing that ever did happen.
One final question on my end. Well, the state of your hands, you said it was what happened when you tried to erase things, when you played God.
I
What or
was
who did you try to erase there?
a lot of people that didn't matter. Of course, when you're trying to make a power that is an insta kill, you can say, you had to experiment. You know, say my power was successful. I can, if willing, I can touch anyone, and if I am able to touch them, I can cause them to say can't. I can cancellate them, as they called it in the organization. Their body turning into dust. Though the soul is ineffective, it's not a it's not a perfect one to one with the powers of the actual erasure.
Indeed, Quill has kind of proved that by being plagiarism personified, which I must admit, seeing as University City and all that department is, what, several hundred years old?
He was a late addition to the organization.
Yes, you say that. Late edition, yet hundreds of years.
He was already experimenting with himself way before we got to him. His state
Ah,
now, his state now was where how I found him. He was
hmm,
hoping to grant the powers of the creativity which he has in some cases, but only very limited.
yes. Not really creativity from him. Very
More of a
much.
He's more of a library, you can say. He has he gains knowledge and keeps it for his own purposes. But he doesn't let anyone take from that repository.
So a hoarding plagiarist, all right. Good to know.
Yes.
Hmm.
Basically the
And there are others. Oh,
yes.
sorry, you go.
Basically his creativity's power limited him to illusions as of right now. Very striking
Ah,
ones.
mm-hmm.
Why did you say even though his death count was high in the past and still is, his illusions have been helping him conceal himself a lot better.
Indeed, you need certain eyes to be able to see him.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Fascinating. And there's another one that's known. Migo Yith, I believe is the name.
Yeah, she's a piece of work.
Such joys in that little department, eh?
You have no idea.
Hmm. Are they all in similar situations? Well, obviously Quill has their own agenda, but any others like you?
Nope.
Hmm,
All of
typical.
them came to the group for one reason or another. Say, unfortunately, Quill and Migo are very alike. They like pushing the boundaries of, say, of science. They want to say they want to see what can and can't happen.
Hmm.
She is a bit more successful with the fact with her powers.
Hmm.
The abstract.
Ah,
But I think I've told you enough. What's your end of the bargain? What chips do you
indeed.
have on the table?
Indeed, indeed. Thank you for being so forthcoming, by the way. I guess the way to start this is I do understand connections and how important they are. And another thing, I guess, well, you already know I have a changeling in my ranks. How much do you know about changelings?
I say I know a good is a good amount about them. I have hunted many of them, mainly because a lot of them served old hags.
Hmm,
Literally, hags. If the joke didn't go across.
it did. It did. But one thing I found rather fascinating about changelings, I mean, there are certain aspects of it that's all so, but the distinct fact is that changelings can't replicate a form that they've not seen before. Did you know that?
He does pause at that, and has, and he's quiet.
Now, I've pinky promised you, and now I augment that. In what I say and what I show now is complete truth, not deception, not trickery to pull a chain. Because you have been deceived and you have been strung up far too much as is. And at the end of the day, you started as a grieving father. And the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and then when you have nothing to lose, I get that. But perhaps I can give you something to fight for. Mira. And she pauses a moment. And then it is the figure you've seen before in that entire situation that you had when you first met this changeling.
Mm-hmm.
And she is in that form again. But as they come in, they do look at Lin and she just goes, show him. And then there is a moment where Mira takes a cloak and wraps it around themselves. And there is a very jarring, uncanny sound of the shift of this changeling, the sound of clay, of ink, of flesh. Because you see, Lin did talk about well, in the first part of the University City game, did talk and did ask Crystal for permission to share this specific person. And one way or another, Lin is very good at finding things when she wants to. So,
Yeah.
so tell me, James, what's his reaction at seeing what Alexander looks like today?
He looks at. Well, technically, it's Mad Lad. And he's just like. He looks
I
at.
will say she will have found a way to try and get Alexander specific, like, because I know that that was one of the things that was talked about. Even if she has to go, okay, I'm getting this specific person and I'm forcing my way into their mind. She will have found Alexander specifically, if that is possible.
With the way that changelings work and they have to see the person, here's the thing. Mad Lad basically looks like Alexander. And other than like the silver hair and eyes, James would recognize that. And
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
he's just like. He's speechless. He doesn't look like the Alexander that I remember, but last time I saw him, he was a mixed match of both of our traits. And he looks towards her hands with like the pinky promise, and he knows that she ain't lying. He's just like, I guess this is what he looks like now. And he just sort of like flops back and like sags in his seat as he just like rubs at his eyes, trying to take in this information.
I understand that this is a lot. I do also promise you he is in the best health he can be. He's looked after, he's safe, good people
He
around him.
shakes his head. No. If you know
Mm.
that he's alive, they goddamn know that he's alive.
I mean, they haven't managed to read my thoughts yet.
They don't need. See, I don't know how he got here or how this came to be. But let me tell you for damn sure that he is not safe. He is not safe now.
Then what are you going to do about it?
Well, he sits up in a way. To be honest with you, I'm ready to wreck some shit. However, I am serious. Lock this kid down as fast as you can. Because the moment they know, the moment they realize this, they're not gonna hesitate to make him a prisoner. And I can't help you then. because they can and will kill.
All right. I'll see what I can do on my end. I'll put everything in place I can. But I'd rather like to see the steel wolf howl. So
Does that mean I've
I
earned
keep
my
your sentence.
does that mean I've earned my cigarette? Or can I upgrade it to a cigar?
They're terrible for your health, you know.
Look, bad habits die hard. And I've had that one for years.
Mm-hmm. We'll work on it. I mean, you gotta give your son the best after all. But roll me an insight if you like.
Alright. Alright, that's a 19.
Yep. This is a tune that you get the idea that she is actively opposed to the idea of smoking. Just on principle and everything, this is someone who's very clear cut in the no. Yet she reaches into her pocket and she does pull out a cigar. Not even a shoddy one. This is a good quality. It doesn't even seem as though it was a bribe, but it does seem as though it was something she perhaps hoped would come to a good occasion. As she passes it over.
He smiles as he takes it, and I'm guessing there's like a torch. There's a torch in the room.
I was about to say she did not provide a lighter.
Yeah, so he takes the cigar, lights it with the torch, and gives it a long drag. And smiles. Sort of that wolfish grin smile. Well, as they say, the hunt begins.
And as she does laugh, and she leans back herself, and in the torchlight, her own fangs are on show.
Hee-hoo.
Hee-hoo! Oh, holy heck, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
We got more!
We got lore. And you have earned an ally.
We've learned! We've gained the ally!
Yes. Wait until it all comes crashing down within a couple weeks. We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Oh, God and Christ on a bike, great.
Yeah, I've been playing this for a month now, a little over a month. It's gonna be really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we gained an ally, and honestly, out of everything, there is a Papa Wolf in our corner. You threaten this kid, we're gonna have a situation. And honestly, we've played the cards as much as we can to angle.
Yeah,
Lin's
just
drunk.
trying to convince the other mother in the room. And say, but that's a different That's a different FPS for a different time.
Indeed, indeed. All right.
Thank you all for listening in on this 12 FPS. I hope you all had a fun time.
I know we did.
Yeah. Let's say bye-bye. Have a good time zone.
Bye.